Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Red Path. It's Dara and Dr. Jack here today, and we are going to be talking about Jack at the Brighton 40k GT,
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
All right, so grab yourselves a brew. Let's dive into the video. Okay, welcome back, everyone. So, for anyone who doesn't know, our beloved Jack here was at tournaments the weekend just gone at time of recording, where he brought your favorite in mind, the world leaders, and I think it's safe to say did reasonably average, right, Jack?
Yeah. Yeah. It was an all right tournament.
It was all right, yeah.
Had a good
So
time.
Jack came third, everyone going 4-1 and winning best painted army as well. So quite a haul coming away from that one, Jack. Well done, well done. You get to
Thank you.
retain your place on the channel and potentially supersede me as the premium hobbyist. So it'll be on you to do the next painting Angron stream.
Fuck
But
no.
yes, fantastic results. How are you feeling after it?
Yeah, pretty good. Obviously got to test a lot of things. It's all good talking about world eaters in theory and like combinations that might work, but like actually just the bit of the hobby that I enjoy is playing games, right? So play games and also winning. It's good fun. Suit me.
Winning is
So
great.
yeah.
So you had a fantastic run, 4-1, and a third place finish is extremely respectable. I think the first thing that everyone's going to want to know is what was your list. So why don't you run us
Okay.
through that?
I will just chuck it up on screen for everyone. I think. I think that's on screen. That is on screen. Excellent. So I ran World Eaters rather than Disciples. I had Lord Invocatus, but no Warlord trait because that's a crutch and a trap. I don't know. Fight me. I ran 20 Berserkers, so 4 squads of 5. 2 of the squads had Icons and Eviscerators, and the other 2 just had Eviscerators to save some points. I ran 10 Jackals, and the Dishonored had a Skull Smasher, so the 2 times attacks, damage 2. Never actually came up. They didn't
Fair
ever
enough.
make combat. I think the one
Sad.
time they made combat, they died before they got to swing. I had 2 squad 3 8-bound. The champion just as is, so with the dual lacerators rather than the heavy chain glaive. So the dual lacerators is the strength 8, AP3, damage 3 attacks, which I think is quite nice. 1 squad of exalted 8-bound. So with the chain fists, and the champion had the dual chain fists for the damage 3 there too. 3 individual spawn, because everyone should always run individual spawn. Anyone who doesn't is a chump. 2 rhinos, just bare, to springboard my berserkers up the board, and then the big man himself, Angron, as my warlord. I paid for his warlord trait, probably forgot it in every single game. I don't think it ever came up anyway. So there's that. And then finally 2 Wardog Executioners with Diabolos Heavy Stubbers rather than the Melter Guns to keep points down. The Executioners are the ones with the Strength 7, AP2 damage 3, 2d3 per arm auto cannons. Anyway, I've been talking about them for a while, so anyone who has been watching for a little bit shouldn't be surprised at that. I took a favor on one of them, which was Mirror Fates. So it is whenever your opponent spends a CP on 5-up, you get it. And then when they're favored, you can turn a hit, wound, or save roll to a 6 once per battle round, which I forgot every single time as well. So, so
Great thing that you brought it.
2,000 points on the nose. Started with 5 CP, and obviously had quite a lot of regenning as well. Like I got one most battle rounds basically against most armies. So that's pretty nice.
Very good. Very, very good. Real nice list. Kind of a lot of interesting elements, I suppose. Chaos Knights going in there is a cool one. And like Angry Ron instead of Invocatus as the Warlord is awesome. So the games is probably what a lot of people want to hear about too, right? So you had quite the run, I would say.
I did. It was
quite an impressive run. Why don't you give us the quick highlights of like what armies you played, how each of those games went down? You can do it like game by game, and maybe the key plays or the key moments in those games that kind of got you the win.
Okay, so I'll just chuck my stuff up on screen now, and we'll just scroll through them quite quickly. So game one, I had Ulthwe. I was a little bit nervous going into it because there was some D cannons, which are killy. There was also an avatar, which I played before.
Sorry, Jack, before we go on, I think one important thing to caveat, leading into this tournament, it was GW terrain. It was not UKGC,
Yes,
it was not WTC, it was GW terrain, which does make things a little bit more difficult for Angron.
Yes.
And just saying about the D cannons there reminded me because naturally
there were
a little
no
bit scarier.
there were I don't think there were any pieces of terrain on any of the boards that like true line of sight blocked Angron. So yeah, that is important to note. You're right. But aside from the D cannons, he didn't really have much shooting. It was mostly like shining spears, handing banshees, striking scorpions, that kind of thing.
And the other aspect, my favorite one.
Oh, the swooping hawks. He had 9 swooping hawks and Baharoth. I have a funny thing about Baharoth.
We'll get to that for the highlights.
So, yeah, like I went second, which is fine with my list. Like fine. He nearly killed Angron turn 1 with his D cannons because I missed Floyd very slightly. But yeah, like overall, it just kind of like showed how disgustingly good the World DT scoring is now, and like max pile the skulls, as you can see on the screen, and nearly max buff for Blood Gods by killing stuff in melee. Blood God's Dew was hilarious because we were playing Recover the Relics, so there were 6 relics, and I kind of got everywhere as I started trading with his army because he spent like 700 points on characters. He had like 2 Warlocks, Farseer, Eldrad, an Avatar, and Baharoth, which meant there wasn't much space for anything else.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah, so we just sort of traded up and down the flanks. He rolled one flank with the Avatar, I rolled the other one with Angron. Angron eventually died, but after he'd rolled a flank completely, so it was kind of fine. Like I'd won the game at that point and didn't really... it was fine.
Yeah.
I made him pay quite a heavy price for rolling my flank, so yeah, I was kind of fine with that. So by the time the Avatar
Game
got
of 2
to,
halves,
yeah.
and one that sounds like you won out in your half and kept the other half at bay for long enough.
For sure.
And yeah, like you said, it's a good demonstration of how strong the secondaries are. Blood God's Dew in particular on 6 objective missions feels incredibly powerful, I think. Much more so. I feel like the 5 objective missions, it's slightly challenging.
I think as well because it was Recover the Relics on GW terrain. So all of the relics, all of the objectives were in those 4 big pieces on the GW terrain. So like where you were naturally staging, you were standing on objective, and then when you moved out, and then like if I died, I was staging in on an objective. If I also fought on death, that drowned another one in blood. Like it, yeah. And then I'd do the same in my turn, just the other way around, right? So it's yeah. I'm unsurprised that it was I think it's probably my best score on Blood God Shield all weekend. It was 12 out of 15. In terms of highlights, I had warned him several times about Blood Surge, pre-game and early game, and then he jumped Baharoth over to sit just outside of an inch of my berserkers, and measured like just to make sure that he was just outside of an inch of my berserkers. And I was like, oh cool, he'll shoot something else and then charge them and kill them. He shot the berserkers with 4 shots on Baharoth's gun that does have exploding 6s.
Yeah, something like that.
But it's like a 4-shot gun. He wasn't going to wipe a squad of 5. He killed one, and I blood surged 3 inches. Fine, that's plenty. And wrapped him, and took 3 wounds off him. Baharoth killed the squad. Fine, I took 3 wounds off Baharoth. He then fucked off, and then 3 turns later did exactly the same thing to another squad of berserkers. I blood surged 6, wrapped him, and killed him.
Not the most amazing play I've ever seen with Baharoth, but it is what it is. Yeah, it's an amusing one.
Yeah. What else? I sent 10 berserkers into the Avatar and didn't kill it, and he just killed all of them in response.
I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. No, I think the Baharoth thing was the thing that sticks in my mind as being lol from that game.
I got a great amount of enjoyment out of it. Strong game one, big win. So we move into game 2, and what did you come up against?
So it's up on the screen now. I played into Imperial Knights. It was a list I pointed out to you before the tournament when I was looking at them. It was one big knight, a knight paladin, and 10 little knights. And he had spent 5 CP on the big knight to give it 2 warlord traits, 2 relics, something else. I don't fucking know. Basically boiled down to the big knight had a 4-up invuln all the time. And when he gave out his bondsman abilities, it gave the little knights a 4-up invuln as well. So once per turn, so he basically got 5 extra little knights that also had a 4-up invuln. So he had like 6 warglaives and 4 helverins, I think. 3 of the warglaives had transhuman to hit. 3 of them had in melee. 3 of them had competitive edge, or basically competitive edge. And then one of the helverins had the +1 to hit and +1 damage against big things, and the other one had something else that I can't remember, but it clearly wasn't that important.
Probably Bastard's Helm, I'm guessing.
Yes, yeah, but I can't remember what the trait was. I mean, because it was a Freebase Lance Army of Renown. Yeah, this game was kind of like, I almost felt quite bad because I did some like, it wasn't scummy, but it was like kind of not quite feels bad, but so it was good play, but it made his army suck basically. Because on GW Terrain it was on corners, like diagonals, I think. Tear down the icons? Yeah, it was on diagonals. And I realised that Angron was going to die turn 1 if he didn't make a first turn charge, so I slapped on his no fallback aura. I sent him 16 inches across the middle of the board and made my 8-inch charge into one of his like warglaives or something.
Strong play.
He beat the shit out of that warglaive through transhuman to hit, obviously, with the full rerolls on himself. It was the failing on 1 to 3, not the no rerolls. So.
Yeah.
4 rerolls to hit. He then consolidated but couldn't quite fit through the gap, so just stood in the one of 2 gaps that were big enough to accommodate a knight out of his deployment zone. So it basically roadblocked his entire army.
Have at me.
Yeah, it basically roadblocked his entire army. I think for the entirety of the game, one of his armigers got out of his deployment zone once.
I mean, that's how you.
And then I killed it.
Though, right? You just block them. You block
twice.
off their avenues.
Twice. He got out twice because he got out at the end, and my 3/8 bound hilariously failed to kill an armiger. So that was good.
I mean, when they're fully powered up, they can be quite annoying to take down.
Yeah, but my guys were fully powered up too.
I don't care about your guys.
But yeah, so I knew where it was going from the start, from quite early on, I think.
Yeah.
I don't play tear down their icons very much, but it is the first time I planted more than 1 bomb.
It's wild. Yeah, people should never do that. That's whenever someone's like, I planted a bomb, I'm like, man, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Yeah, so Angron killing that was quite funny. My exalted, in turn 1 and 2, I think I made like 3 8 or 9-inch charges, and that it just killed the game because it like penned him in on one side of his deployment zone, it penned him in in the middle. Because I also so my turn 2 when Angron was dead, I made the 8-inch charge with my deep striking exalted 8 bound, and had one survive the hit back, and he just parked himself in exactly the same spot as Angron did, and they couldn't get around him. So,
yep, that's how you beat the knights.
Yeah, highlight was on that charge, the exalted 8 bound went into two baby knights because I was feeling ambitious. Killed one, which then exploded, and the sigh he made was like, not because it was going to do loads of damage, because it's like a 6-inch D3 or something, which is like not nothing, but it's not like game.
Oh, because he can't fight on death then, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it exploded. So he was like, fuck, I'm going to have to get all my fucking dice out now, because he had to mark up all of the, right in the middle of all his 10 armigers. So he was more annoyed that he had to just mark up all the wounds than the fact that his knight had exploded. But
amusing.
Yeah, it was just like, I felt like I played the game quite well as well. Like it was like successive waves of stuff that that just kept him penned in, and I didn't overcommit really at any point. I think the one towards the end when I sort of knew I'd won, I probably could have maxed my points a bit more. I sent Invocatus. I had the opportunity to send him into like a wounded baby knight or into a very wounded paladin. And sent him into the very wounded paladin, and he did fucking nothing. 2 damage to, like, this guy was on like 10 wounds, and I was like, yeah, he can do that, and he could not do that. Wounding on 5s.
Invocatus OP confirmed.
So he did
Awesome.
fucking nothing into that. But yeah,
So game two, another strong victory.
yeah.
Nice. At this point, you're rising close to the sun,
Oh,
and
I was on the top table in game three.
you sure were. What color was the sun when you arrived at it?
Yeah, it was a green tide covering covering the board. It was a horde army. So
Good old Goth pressure.
Goth Orks. It was a list. I hadn't seen an Orks list like that before.
Oh really? Oh, I thought it was like the standard enough like Goth pressure list, no?
I
With
I
like
don't
guys and all of them.
I don't know what the Goth pressure list looks like.
Okay.
It was basically like loads of MSU squads of boys and MSU squads of Gretchen, MSU squads of bikers, MSU squads of Squeakhog boys, couple of kill rigs, Gazgul, Makari, Speed Boss, I think. And the guy, I know his name. I recognize his name. He's been to quite a few of the like local tournaments. He is a very good Orcs player, and just a very good player in general. He went on to win the event, and yeah, I didn't have an appreciation of the possibility that I might bounce before all my blood type buffs were off. So I got, and riding high after 2 decent wins, I got a bit over ambitious in my early turns and just bounced and didn't quite kill units, and that meant that my like blood type point generation was a bit off, and meant that he just hid units of like 1 model, which was really
Not
annoying.
great. Yeah, not great.
But yeah, I it was a mission. So I was playing Tide of Conviction, so overrun, and I went first when I probably wanted to go second, and played turn 1 quite cagey. He played turn 1 quite cagey, but his secondaries were he was gonna because of get the good bits, just auto 15 on, especially when you can basically touch the objective when you're, or be within range of the objective when you're in your deployment zone still, meant that he had to do fuck all to max that. And then Green Tide, he was going to outscore me if I didn't do anything. And he just had a bit more speed to come out and touch me. And I think one of my flanks was a bit weaker than it perhaps should have been. I focused everything in. I got drawn in by having a big L for once, and hit everything in there. And then the other flank was just really weak, and that meant that my primary was terrible all game. Yeah, so the best thing for that game, I think, because it was quite late in the day, and I don't think I played that well in it, was Angron charging a kill rig and one-shotting it. Just like it, yeah. Through a war in Voln as well. Like, yeah.
Nice.
It's good fun.
Going to town.
That was very satisfying.
So a little bit of a lull to game 3.
Yeah.
Taking the L, but not too bad. A good result is still potentially on the horizon.
Yeah.
So we move into Sunday, game 4, and what are you playing again, Jack?
So I went into golf again. It was a different
we go
list.
again.
It was a different list. And as you can see from what I've just chucked up on the screen, it went slightly better this time. So it still had the 2 kill rigs, but it had like 1 squad of 10 Beast Snagger boys, still the 30 Gretchen, the 3 squads of 10 Gretchen, a couple of squads of 10 Storm boys, some commandos. It's a bit more like rounded. There was a truck with some truck boys in that were like fully kitted out knobs and shit like that. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to like think about this. It was on Death and Zeal as well, so I knew that if he went first, he'd be able to make a lot of turn 1 charges with like Storm boys and stuff and truck boys. And in deployment, he was sort of like castling up with all his Storm boys or just an inch off the wall, like in the big L thing, or the equivalent of the big L. And I was like doing the same. I'd like put Angron down and like wrapped him around the front in jackals so that he couldn't get charged by the Storm boys and stuff. And then he put his Beast Boss on Squigosaur like right out front, and I was like, it was like I waited a couple of drops, and then I was like, "Is he your Warlock, by the way?" And he was like, "Yeah, he is." I was like, "You can only call the war if your Warlord's on the field, right?" It's like, "Yeah." And then he's like, "Oh shit," and then like put 10 Gretchen in front of him, and I was like,
"Oh, good, yeah."
I was like,
that's a good screen.
I was like, okay. So I left it so that my War Dogs were the last thing I put down, and I literally just like put them right behind because they have 60-inch range guns. It's like range board, right? So I put them behind my L, and like scooted them like literally sideways, and they could both draw a line on these Gretchen. So I put damage 3 autocannons into 10 Gretchen,
I mean,
to clear the screen.
to clear that screen
Yeah.
though, it's worth it.
For Angron to then make his 8-inch charge again into the Beast Boss and also the Kill Rig next to him with his no fallback aura. I then dumped 39 attacks with Gory Dismemberment into his Beast Boss and did 23 damage.
I'm shocked. I'm so shocked.
At which point it was game over, pretty much.
Yep, that's it. If you can't wag, you're gone.
Because well, he also hit back with the Kill Rig, did like 3 wounds, I think. And then couldn't fall back with it. So Angron got like smited a bit and like then frazzled or whatever the fuck that power is, and then shot in the face by only 1 Kill Rig instead of 2. And then charged with the fully tooled up knobs and another squad of Storm Boys. The fully tooled up knobs took him down to 7 wounds, not killing him. Angron then interrupted with Gory Dismemberment, did 14 wounds to the 11 wound unit of Storm Boys, and 18 wounds to the full health Kill Rig.
I mean, that's devastating. Like
Yeah.
that is devastating.
Yeah.
You put that man in the ground in 2 turns.
And then it became an exercise in can I get 100, which
Yep.
I managed.
Which you did.
Yeah.
Well done.
It did require some like maneuvering. Like I had to let Boss Zagstruck, I think is the Storm Boy boss, like goth boss.
Sure.
He killed some stuff that he otherwise wouldn't have, but it allowed me to max 15 on both of the Blood Gods. Yeah.
So a very, very strong win. At this point, you are 3-1.
Yep.
1 game left to go.
Yep.
All to play for.
Yep.
And what are we playing into?
So I ended up into my old nemesis, Space Wolves, in my last game.
You have a history with the old wolves. They were your kryptonite for quite some time.
Oh, because I kept playing the same
Quite some
guy
time.
who's really fucking good at Space Wolves.
Indeed, indeed. But I think you always had a bone to pick with the dogs. So how did what was it called? The Night of the Long Fang or something like
I
that?
don't fucking know.
Where Russ and Angron fight each other in Heresy?
Oh, yeah, when Angron wins.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. Okay.
Which definitely happened.
He did
yes.
win.
So, okay, we're not getting into that right now.
Not my fault the World Eaters lost. Angron won.
So, Space Wolves, Game 5, all to play for. How did it
go? Mixed. I mean, so I won, which was great, but so we were on Secure Missing Artifacts, which is the movie objectives. You pick your opponent's like priority one, and then hold it. And I was like, cool, 2 very melee armies. I'll pick Blood for Blood God because I'm going to be killing stuff in melee. He'll be coming to me hopefully to score points, and Blood God Stew because we'll be trading on objective loads. He picked Shock Tactics, which obviously because it's really good. He picked O's a Moment, which is also really good now because they've reverted all the nerfs on it. And he picked Raise Banners. And I was like, fine. Like his list was like he had two little squads of infiltrators, 3 squads of 5 Wolfen with all Thunderhammers and Storm Shields, 2 squads of 5 Vanvets, I think, with Claws and Combi Melters, a squad of Thunderwolf Cav, and then like various characters with like Rights of War, Chapter Master, +2 to charge Chaplain guy, and a Librarian with the cover power and the Fight Last. There was an Armor of Ross in there somewhere as well, I think. And he had a squad of 5 Eradicators, and so I was immediately like, right, they need to fucking die because otherwise Angron's in trouble. And he misdeployed them very slightly so that they touched onto a piece of cover that he could have just deployed them behind. I put my Executioners in a corner so they could draw a line into the back of that piece of cover and see them, and just shot them with both Executioners when I went first and removed them from the table. And from that point, I was like, cool, I'm just going to sit Angron in my big L, and if you come onto the middle, that unit will die. I did expect him, and it was a reflection he had after the game because he scored not very well on O's a Moment. I did expect him to just feed a 5-man unit onto the objective every turn to score as a moment because the 2 points are for holding the middle.
Yeah, it would be the natural kind of assumption. Yeah,
but he didn't do that. So I was like, I need to get a bit more aggressive because I had no like need to feed stuff into the middle because it was giving him Shock Tactics, right? So I felt the need to get a bit more aggressive on like a couple of the flanks to like make it a bit more of a sure thing. Fighting in to fight on death was like, okay, they're gonna fight on death. Okay, I'm fighting on death too. Like, oh, you're gonna
We do it
interrupt there.
together.
You're gonna interrupt there. I'm gonna fight on death there. Oh, I'm gonna interrupt there. I'm fighting on death. Yeah, yeah. So,
Yep. Nasty combat faces, basically.
but it also meant that we never really traded on objectives, which meant that Blood God Stew I did not score well on. I scored 5 on it. Like if I'd taken no prisoners, I would have got 13 because I nearly tabled him. Angron didn't come out to like turn 4, I don't think, when he killed a wounded Primaris Librarian and 5 Skyclaws, and that was it. And then he got the shit kicked out of him by 5 Wolfen. But yeah, I think it would have been a much closer game if he'd thought about his overarching strategy a bit more. I mean, it was still a pretty close game. But then if he had played it that way, I would have scored way more on Blood God Stew and probably maxed out Blood for Blood God as well. Just because, although he probably would have maxed Shock Tactics, it's hard to tell, right? Because it would have changed the way I played. Because I ended up pushing hard one flank and then probing the other. But if he had committed to mid, then I probably would have just traded in the mid and been happy doing that and holding on to the other two and like plinking with
like
warlords.
the whole game state changes, you know, in those situations.
Yeah.
So you can never really know. But yeah, I mean, finishing off the tournament on a high with another big win and nabbing you 3rd place overall, which is pretty sweet, right?
Yeah, it was
pretty sweet. Big for first tournament with the new book. Hitting 3rd place at a GT is nothing to be sniffed at, with Angron no less. Rumored to be a unit that you can go at most 3-3 with, is the word on the street.
Big 3-3 energy, yeah.
Big 3-3 energy. But yeah, 4-1 is extremely respectable. So you have set down the gauntlet for all Angron enjoyers to equal to our best. So we'll see if that's possible. Easy mode. Yeah. So going forward, obviously, you know, you're a man who loves a bit of reflection after a tournament, who loves to look deep into yourself and pull apart a list. So what's next? What's your thoughts on lists going forward? Is our father staying, or is he going by the way of the dodo?
So it depends what my next tournament is. At the moment, my next tournament is GW terrain. It's one of the Canterbury ones, and it's an RTT, and I want to try. Hold on to your judging face. I want to try Implicatus with the Warlord trait and a few more 8-bound, and basically just trade Angron for an extra squad of 8-bound and bumping up the existing squads. I think I'm probably going to go three lots of 4. Keep the War Dogs though. I played a sort of test game on sort of GW terrain last night with a list that I really enjoyed. So I think, and that was still going second. So I think I'm gonna perhaps take that to an RTT, and hopefully go first at some point ever, so I can try the Alpha Strike.
Yeah, could be interesting. I will be curious to see if it's something that you enjoy doing, or if that's something that kind of becomes a little bit dull, or not.
I think I definitely want to take that list pretty much that I took to Brighton, maybe with a few tweaks in terms of like number of berserkers, number of 8-bound. But roughly that list to my first UK TC event, which at the moment isn't for a while. It's Bristol in like June, I think.
June or something. Yeah, we got a ways to go. Yeah, because we can assume Festa's going to follow GW standard layout of terrain, right?
Yeah, I would assume that. So I'm kind of, and a lot of my locals...
Watch me run Invocatus in 24 8-bounds of Fest.
24 isn't the build anymore, man. Times have moved on. Future is now.
Oh yeah, I'm an old man. I don't keep up with such things anymore.
The future is now. It's 3 sets of 4 and 3 sets of 3 now. It's not. Okay. There's no 5s. 5's overkill.
I'm simply not buying that much 8-bound.
Possessed, man. I'm just repurposing all of my possessed.
Yeah, fair. So yeah, interesting innovations and an interesting result from your first GT with the new book and the new boys. I think it's safe to say you're pleased with it, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I went in expecting nothing. Like I was hoping to get a couple of wins and just basically test the book and play some games.
Yeah, you went with a fuck around and find out attitude, and you found out in a good way.
Yeah. So I'm really happy with it. There was certainly an element of I don't know what this army does. and I'm really scared to face it, kind of thing. And people sort of getting in their own heads about like World Eaters. They hit
Angron is such a psyops element,
Yeah.
right? People see him and they're like,
oh shit, he's big.
what do I do?
But like
Great,
the other themes were like they hit real fucking hard. Like, oh, there's like 2 guys left. How many attacks? That? Oh, 2 8-bound with like eviscerators. That that's 14 attacks. Oh,
Yep.
what's the profile? Oh, their strength 7, AP 3, damage 2. What? Yeah, no, it's and I think I last night and some discussions in the Discord. I've had some revelations, I guess, about like blood tithe buff orders for me. So I've been going to the +1 to hit one first for most of my matchups, just because +1 to hit is nice. But exploding 6s to hit is, I think, potentially stronger, because mathematically it's the same, but the spike potential is higher.
Yeah, it just depends what you're playing into, right?
Yeah. And also your list. So if you have a lot of weapon skill 2, so if you're running loads of Exalted and Angron or loads of characters, then +1 to hit loses value. Exploding 6s to hit has loads of value. So
also, like if you're running just units that generally tend to have more dice to be thrown, the 6s exploding end up becoming more valuable, right? So it's an interesting kind of thought process to go through.
I mean, last night I got both off and it was disgusting. So
yeah, I mean, the last test game I played, I had weapon skill 2 up. I had 6 exploding and 6 auto wounds.
Nice.
It was just like, well,
guess you're dead then.
guess I touch you and you die.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting one. Cool to see you run it out in the field and have a lot of success. I think will probably inspire many people in the times to come. Do you have any closing thoughts to finish this one out, Jack?
I don't think so. I think just that don't write Angron off. I think I mean I've just recorded White Weekly as well for this week, and there were 8 lists that did 4-1 or 3-0. And it was a 50-50 split on Angron versus Imbricatus as the Warlord. So, yeah. Don't write Angron off. He has
100%. Yep, absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely. All right. I think that will call this video here, folks. So thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening to Jack's Tales. And until the next one, stay healthy, stay safe, and kill, maim, burn, everybody.